Hi, this is Steve from Retroman Blog, and welcome to this little special edition of Retrosonic Podcast. And I've relocated the studio to Rockingham Road, the suitably named Rockingham Road, which sounds like something out of Fab FM.
Does
smashing in nicely.
I never thought of that, actually, yeah.
And I'm here with Leigh Heggarty. Hello, Leigh.
Hello, Steve. Welcome to the Dolphin pub in Uxbridge.
Yes, great.
A spiritual home of all sorts of peculiarity.
Yes, that's great. So you might hear a little bit of background noise, so we'll see how this goes. Then hopefully it won't interrupt the enjoyment of our little chat with Leigh. So, Leigh.
Yeah, the dancers don't come on for another half hour, so we should be all right.
No, us two included.
Yeah, but you have to join in. It's in the contract. You did check the contract, didn't you? It's in the contract.
I did, yeah, of course, yeah. So sorry about the background noise, everybody, but it's going back to our old days of the Retrosonic Podcast when we had Paul Slattery's log fire spitting in the background, or us eating crisps and things like that. Very professional, semi-professional. It's all to create the atmosphere of being in a pub. Well, we are really, aren't we?
No, it's one of those old BBC sound effects records that's going in the background.
Right, well, Leigh, thanks. This is our second chat with Retrosonic. We did a great special edition with you a while back with when you went and looked at all the influences on your career.
Yeah, I remember, yeah, it was great. Very enjoyable.
And of course, we know you now as guitarist with Ruts DC.
Yes.
And probably the reason I wanted to get you here today was this new outfit, Wingmen.
This peculiar development.
Sudden development, which has been taken the country by storm.
Well, that actually feels as though we might have. I mean, it seems strange now. I mean, as with all tours, 2 weeks later they seem like they were a lifetime ago. Yeah. But yes, this one was remarkably successful. We did 9 shows across Britain. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. I got told off for saying Britain. Across England.
Oh, yes, I must interrupt and say you didn't go to Scotland. I've had a couple of people say you didn't make it to... I mean, Glasgow, you would have gone down a storm in King Tut's.
I mean, to give you a bit of background on how the tour came together, we were... I'm sure we'll talk about how the band came together as well, but the tour was quite hastily arranged, and it came about... there was a chance of a show at the Concord 2 in Brighton. Fozzie, who books the gigs there, is a good friend of Marty, who plays drums in the band. And he kind of, from what I can gather, I'm not sure whether Martin asked him for a gig or whether he just said, I've got a gig, do you want that group of yours to play it? And the idea came up, and it turned out that if we worked backwards from the dates he had, which I think was the 29th or 30th, near the end of January, Paul was due to start rehearsing with the Damned at the start of February for their March European shows. It turned out if we worked backwards from that date, we had what I believe is called a window. Or a window of opportunity, when the 4 of us, and it was only 4 of us at that point, were all available. Yeah. So I finished the Ruts at the start of December. Martin had done a few bits with mopeds, and Paul was around, so it was actually a chance for us to possibly get together. Now we're talking about October, November here, so it was very hastily arranged.
Well, it was, wasn't it? Because I mean, the album came out. We're sidetracking a little bit. We're assuming that everybody has been into W.H. Smith's and seen on the shelves the new Viva La Rock with you plastered all over the cover of it. And and I said this tour has been really successful, but Wingmen is yourself, Leigh Heggarty from Ruts DC and The Price, Baz Warne from the Stranglers, or the Toy Dolls, a while back.
And Small Town Heroes, of course, was the other band that I have a recollection of seeing him in. Very good.
Marty Love of Case and Johnny Moped on the drums.
Yes, that's Marty.
And Paul Gray of the Damned on the bass, and Eddie and the Hot Rods.
Eddie and his Hot Rods, yes.
Yeah. And for the live dates, you've got in Rob Coombes from Supergrass to play keyboards.
Yes. Another wingman, of course. Another person, because this brings into the idea of this that all the members in the band are in bands that perhaps people have heard of, but that they're not the founder or most recognisable members in those bands.
And I must apologise in front of you to say, because you might have read on retromanblog.com my glowing feature, which I was blown away by the album and the gig that I saw, and I did say that although this word supergroup has been bandied around in all the reviews, I did say they're probably not what I would call a supergroup, but I meant that in a nice way. So before you throw your beer over me.
Did you?
I think you'll get where I'm coming from, because you called yourself Wingmen, and I think that was the whole point, was that, as you said, you're all members of these bigger bands, if I can say.
Yeah, absolutely.
But not founder members, maybe the unsung heroes of the bands. And I think you've quite self-deprecatingly, I think, called the band Wingmen.
Yeah, I think Baz actually came up with the name. We were looking for a name that did exactly that. We wanted something that was perhaps reflected that idea, and I think Sidemen was one that
Sidekicks, I
think. Yeah, that was. There was all things like that. Baz just suddenly just sort of went Wingmen, and we thought, well, there must have been a band called the Wingmen, and we looked around a bit, and there's a couple of covers bands and things like that, but we thought we'd kind of tough it out and drop the, so it's just Wingmen, although that might appear at some point, I mean, who knows. But we just thought, it was appropriate for the way the band came together and kind of seemed to suddenly emerge, although we've been working on it for a little while in our subterranean garret that we work in.
But I did try and, not that I'm looking at that point that you're going to throw at me in a minute, I did try and quantify what I was saying by mentioning that all of you have actually had quite a big impact on the bands that you were in, from my point of view. So, for example, with the Ruts DC, with you joining Ruts DC and reverting to a three-piece, releasing 2 fantastic albums recently, your input has been invaluable, I think, to the band.
I hope so. Yeah, I mean that's
and you've had this sort of your second lease of life with if I can say that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Baz with the Stranglers. I mean, I was a big Stranglers fan, as I say, from way back, and like I mentioned in the feature, that I'd been bored with the Stranglers even before Hugh left.
I know what you mean.
And when Baz joined, they reverted back to the traditional lineup.
Yeah, the Fighting For kind of thing. It was,
and you had the Sweet 16 album. It was fantastic. I think, again, I'm probably not the only fan that's got back into them. Absolutely. Likewise with the Damned, I think Paul Gray had got back and they did that Rockfield Files EP, which was great because I loved his beat.
Yeah, absolutely. And what was the Stand on the Edge of Tomorrow? All those have been just brilliant. Yeah, he gave him a
lease of life as well.
The proverbial
I'm only
kick.
talking my personal opinion, but and Marty Love has been in Johnny Moped, and Johnny Moped's had a resurgence as well recently with some great records.
Which again is shows Martin's energy for things. I mean, he's so enthusiastic and so kind of into things and pushes us all the time.
So I think I wasn't, it wasn't
taken.
You know what I mean.
When they first saw punk supergroup, Baz and Paul were just sort of horrified. Speaking personally, I've never been worried about the term punk. I wouldn't have been worried if it would have been called a rock thing or anything. I mean, none of it bothers me, the sort of labels thing. It's just, there's just music that you like.
But I think, again, what I mentioned in the review was you took quite a brave step of actually, you've obviously got the album, which we'll talk about. You released the album and you're going on this tour. And then it became apparent that you were just Wingmen. And you were doing the album as a whole. And there was a few surprises along the way.
Yeah, sure.
Quite a brave move, because at no point did you ever say, we're going to play New Rose or Babylon's Burning or
Golden Brown or whatever.
And I think it was made I think you did make it quite clear to people that, not don't turn up expecting that, but I think it was clear. But I still think it was a brave move to do that, because you're producing gigs and this album is totally new.
Yeah.
Debut album, and you're touring it and playing that. And I can only talk again from seeing you at the Islington Academy and also the reviews that I've heard from people online, but I think it seemed to go down the storm, didn't it? People embraced it.
We were so pleased. I mean, we had, I wouldn't say we had no idea how it was going to go. That would be wrong to say that. We were optimistic that people would get it, for want of a better term.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember that I don't always look at all the Facebook things now because it can be a little bit distressing. But I saw when the tour was first announced, there were people saying things like, right, we're going to hear, like you say, Babylon. Are we going to hear sometimes, whichever track you're in, neat, And then it kind of got a bit more polarised, and people were saying, well, Paul's on the Black Album, surely they're going to play Wait for the Blackout,
Yeah.
Well, interesting point,
Yeah.
And so when we started thinking about how we were going to do it, we obviously we've got a 10-track album, and you wouldn't really, it's very hard to play the whole of an album. And there was an original idea that we would play, say, side one, then maybe play a cover or two, and then, or maybe play a couple of songs from the bands and things like that, and then play side two through, and that got that morphed into what we eventually did. So the covers came out in the conversation a lot of the time. There were ideas for things. Marty, I think, suggested "Hang On to Yourself" by Bowie because he said, you could play some slide on it and it would suit our sound. Baz came up with the model by Kraftwerk, but a somewhat different stab at it. I know a few people have done that, but he had such such a great way of singing it that we just thought, well, come on, we've got to put this in, I think Martin suggested "Long Black Veil," the Stranglers song as well. Although I think Baz wrote that. The Stranglers write the songs, but Baz was the main writer on it. And he said, I'd like to sing that, and we debated that a little bit because it was kind of the equivalent of, say, me doing "Kill the Pain," for example. It's a song that I'm on the recording of by the parent band or whatever word you want to use. But I thought, we thought about a lot of that, and Baz sang it great, brilliantly. The googly was "Do Anything You Want to Do," because originally, dear listener, it can now be told that we were considering doing Teenage Depression, and Baz really wanted to do it. He was like, I want, real total rock out kind of Eddie and the Hot Rods meet early Quo kind of real garagey version of it, And as I remember it, we kind of started looking at that because when I say looking at it, we were all doing our homework before we got together to rehearse because although we'd recorded the album, the songs weren't recorded with any live performance in mind. So speaking personally, I had to go back to the album and learn the songs again. I think, how did that go? So Baz came up with this idea for Teenage Depression, and then one day, the email came round from Paul. Listen, why don't we just do Anything You Want to Do? It's a great song, people love it, I'm on the record, and it was a totally legitimate cover version.
It was a good choice, because I think, as I said, as we mentioned there, you did throw in a few covers, not the ones you would expect, which was quite good. Iggy Pop, or the Stooges.
Which Paul suggested.
Mark Bolan, T-Rex.
Bolan, which I think Baz came up with that. But that was a great favourite of mine. I took that immediately, and it was a chance to play some bonkers slide guitar as well, which I was never going to miss.
The album had only been released really before you went on tour. Was it pretty much the week before, a couple of weeks before?
Absolutely, it was very, very tight. We did a sort of a launch event in the middle of December, and there were literally only there were enough copies for the people that went to it. It was right on the wire. There's still no vinyl, sadly, but it was really tight that we'd have them even for the tour. And faced with this idea that we were going to go out and play an hour of unfamiliar music, or 40 odd minutes of unfamiliar music. I mean, there's other songs we've recorded. There's a song called "Turn to Stone," which is actually me singing, which is a distressing concept in itself. Right, okay. But that's the B-side of a single that's about to come out. We're putting "Down in the Hole" out as a single, and "Turn to Stone's on the B-side. And Martin particularly said, well, why don't we do that live? And I think my answer, apart from the fact that I was probably a bit nervous of singing live, was there's enough unreleased, unknown music already. And we thought, we've got to be a little bit careful here. And because we're not playing safe, we're not playing Babylon, we're not playing New Rose or whatever, so it all kind of sort of started to coalesce, if you like. We're only talking about November time now, and I was on tour with Ruts DC. I mean, I was learning this stuff on off days in hotel rooms and things. I had me sitting on the end of my bed with an unplugged guitar, playing along with an iPod. It was quite touch and go that we were doing this, And then we eventually had 3 days rehearsal, 2.5 days by the time we'd set up. And we'd all done a lot of homework to get it to the stage that we got it to. But somewhere around this time, Rob appeared on the scene. How did that happen?
Well, let's talk about Rob, but before we do that, you mentioned the new single that you're releasing, which will be out soon on white vinyl?
I think I must admit, no one releases black vinyl records anymore.
No, not anymore, do they?
I used to like them.
They're more rare now than coloured vinyl.
There's like unsigned Wingmen albums are pretty rare compared to... Anyway, enough of that.
But let's hear it. Let's hear the single, which is available to pre-order now, and this is "Down in the Hole" by Wingmen.
voices, they grow louder, spiraling out of control. Pray for my soul, pray for my soul.
Great track, love it. And so we mentioned Rob Coombes, who wasn't on the album. No. Obviously, he's been playing with Supergrass keyboards for some while now. 97 or something, I think.
Long time, yeah.
And he wasn't on the album.
No.
Just for the live dates. But let's go into the album itself, because this was interesting, because this was a lockdown project, wasn't it?
Very much so, yeah, very much so.
So tell us about, for people that don't know, how these four disparate members of various bands decided to get together and do this album.
Okay. The funny thing, I've done about you, but thinking back to lockdown now, it's very difficult to tell when things happened in it. It went into suspended animation, didn't it?
Definitely, yeah.
I think sometime towards the end of 2020, or was it early 2021? I got a text message from Marty, and it was very simple. It just said something like, "Hello mate, how are you doing? Have you got 5 minutes for a chat?" And I sort of sent back, thinking that it would be nice to talk to anybody on earth. But Marty's a lovely fella, and it'd be great to speak to him, see how he's doing. And I sent back, yeah, great, I'm here now. And I think I'd only just sent the message and the phone went, hello, all right, yeah. We got talking. I said, what's up? He said, well, I've just been talking to Paul Gray. So, name dropping,
Yeah.
Now, of course, Martin had played on the Sensible Grey Cells album.
Yes,
Get Back Into a great album, fantastic record.
Quite a psychedelic
brilliant record, though, isn't it? Really good.
And that was with him, Paul Gray, and Captain Sensible.
That's correct.
So the three-piece.
Yeah.
Which is out on Damaged Goods Records.
It is, and highly recommended. Bit of a classic, I think. And he said, well, obviously no one's doing much at the moment, but he's got a few songs that, Damned aren't doing anything with. And I got talking to him. We're both a bit fed up, and we thought, why don't we, put a group together in lockdown, and your name's come up on guitar, which I was very flattered and quite amazed by. And he said, would you be interested? And it's the Blackadder gag, isn't it? I don't know, let me think about it. I've thought about it, it's a brilliant idea. Of course I'm interested. I've not got much on at the moment, okay, great. And he said, well, his idea would be, he'll send you some songs, maybe you could put some guitar on and we'll kind of put some tracks together.
Yeah.
I said, great. He said, right, well, what about a singer then? And in my naivety, I thought it was going to be like a kind of Paul solo album almost, because he said he had these songs. And he sings 3 or 4 songs on the Sensible Grey Cells album, really good. And he said, well, why don't we put together a kind of, imaginary group kind of thing, which I thought brilliant, like being in the Monkees or something. It's great, just what I'm looking for, The Monkees are brilliant, they weren't imaginary, well, they kind of were, weren't they, But you know what I mean. And without thinking, I said, well, if I could get anybody to be in a group with, to play guitar with, it would be Baz from Stranglers. And Martin went, great, phone him up. I said, I can't phone him up, I can't just phone a Strangler. He said, well, I've just phoned, you, just phone him up. Okay. So at this point, I get quite shy, as I always do in life, and I sat there for about a day and a half writing a text message, which I've probably still got on the phone somewhere, Hello, Baz. In a high voice. Hello, Baz. Leigh from Ruts DC here. I've just been talking to... And I did this massive thing with loads of disclaimers, if you're not interested, just let me know, I won't be offended. And anyway, what's going to happen, God knows how this is going to work. And anyway, love you, Leigh, your friend at the moment, until you've read this, Leigh from Ruts DC. I sent the message, and absolutely nothing happened for I think about a day and a half or whatever it was. Yeah. And I woke up one morning and Baz had sent a message at about 3 in the morning, which is what he does. And I don't exactly told me off, but in the Vive La Rock interview that came out, I said it was influent Baz, and by that I mean it just sounded like him talking, so enthusiastic, really into it. And of course I'd love to be involved, I too have not much on at the moment, there's not many gigs in the book, let's talk later on. So I phoned him up later on, or he phoned me, I can't remember which, and we were on the phone for ages, and I said, well look, it's Paul Gray and Marty, and it's me and you. The idea would be to sort of, send ideas for songs around and build up some tracks and just see where it takes us. And if nothing else, it gives us something to do. We're all going a bit crackers,
Yeah.
Now, in my naivety, I assumed that Paul and Baz must have met. I thought the Stranglers and the Damned must have been on a bill somewhere, and they must, but they'd never met.
Because you knew Baz obviously from Ruts DC and Stranglers.
That's right, yeah.
Together.
We'd toured together. I knew Martin sort of around and about. I think I saw him in Case all those years ago, and I'd always known him on and off throughout the years. And Paul I'd met 3 or 4 times with the Damned, around the Damned, kind of, you know. We did a BBC Steve Lamacq Christmas special, punk special thing with him. But anyway, I'd met Paul 2 or 3 times, and we always got on well. You know, just quick chat. Oh, I'd done that Eddie and the Hot Rods thing, the Barry's last gig with the Hot Rods. I was lucky enough to play a couple of songs at that. So I'd sort of met him around. Yeah. But Paul and Baz certainly hadn't met. So we did again. Remember, we were in lockdown, so we arranged a Zoom meeting. And there we all were. Suddenly, the 4 of us on the screen together, and everybody got on really well. Loads of gags and self-deprecating asides to everybody, and all that kind of thing. And we said, right. And so Paul said, okay, well, I've got half a dozen song ideas. Let's set up one of these Dropbox things, whatever it is you do these days. I'll start sending them round, see what you think. And of course, he sent them round, and of course, they're great. And Down in the Hole was one of them. Oh, What If I Could? Yeah. But they were sketches of songs. Well, we all worked on the songs a bit. They were, you know, he'd written sort of the main parts of 4 or 5 songs. At which point, you know, these arrived and we all started emailing and what have you. At which point, Baz suddenly piped up with, well, I've got a song that could fit in with this. I'll send it round. And it was Brits. An early version of Brits. Yeah, absolutely. And, well, suddenly we're off, aren't we, at that point? Martin had been doing some writing with Richard Coppin, better known to you and I as Dick Crippen from Temple Tudor, who
he produced the album.
Who runs? He sort of co-produced it with us.
Engineered it.
At Panther Studios, which he runs. And he'd written some material together, one of which was "Don't Look Back," which we've recorded but didn't make it onto the album. But we played it on the tour.
Which was a great song.
Yeah, it will emerge shortly. I'm sure we'll talk about that in a moment. So Martin had about 3 or 4 tracks, but that one kind of rose to the top. And I remember we put the middle section in and changed it around a bit. I put the dive bombing guitar riff on the start and all that, and I thought, well, I'd better have a go as well. And I had a few song ideas knocking about. And I came up with a song called Turn to Stone, which is going to be the B-side of the Down in the Hole single. So all these songs started coming in. And then we thought, well, how are we going to do this? Well, because all the songs had been recorded at home, they were all recorded either to a click track or to a basic drum beat, like a kind of 4/4 drum beat, whatever it might be.
So how is Marty involved in this, though?
Marty
doing a lockdown.
We started swapping all these songs around, and traditionally, of course, the drums tend to be the first thing that's recorded, or the band plays live. Well, what we did with this case, we came up with the idea that if we got, say, 3 or 4 songs to the point where they needed drums on them, he could then go in the studio and put the drums on.
Remotely on his own,
So actually, I went down to Panther in Reigate because I was the other person nearest to the studio, and we took, I think we had 4 or 5 songs ready to go. I think Brits was definitely one of them. I Would If I Could. Turn to Stone was on there. There was about 4 or 5 songs, and we set it up, blasting away as if we were playing in the room with him, and he played drums, like live drums to a recorded track, if that makes sense. So they're not programmed.
But that was when you were after the lockdown, when you were recording the album.
No, this was in one of those kind of gaps in the lockdown.
Okay, I see.
So we'd all sent in guitar and bass parts. Baz had put some vocals in. I'd done a bit. We'd all done a few bits and pieces.
Yeah.
They were then all sent to Panther.
I see. Okay.
And then then I went in there with Martin.
Because I was just wondering, he must have been so frustrated, Marty, if he's sitting there listening to all these all these sort of tracks that are going backwards and forwards.
Yeah, absolutely.
With no real drums on,
And so we then did like 4 or 5. He put 4 or 5 drum tracks on. And at that point, the band still hadn't all met. It was still being done all virtually. And then there was a momentous occasion when we arranged a session at Panther where we could all make it. It was one of those gaps. This would be kind of, hard to remember, isn't it? Spring or summer 2021. Maybe a little bit later in the year, but it was in 2021 at some point where it opened up a little bit. And down we all went, so the studio in Reigate, all met up, hurrah! Listened to the tracks and started doing, putting a few little overdubs on, rough mixes, etc., etc. Repaired to the public house opposite for pizza and a couple of pints. Went back, did a bit more work, then had a jolly up in the pub all night, stayed locally, and kind of all really got to know each other and all got on great. So we in many ways we'd actually managed to record several tracks without ever meeting.
Okay, so you decided to keep a lot of the original recordings that you've done.
Pretty much all.
Them. You didn't redo them all live.
No. Baz has a home studio that he worked in. Paul, I think, works on a Mac or whatever it was with GarageBand. I think he works with Logic actually. And I'm the kind of sick anemic cousin of the recording world. I've just got GarageBand on an iPad. So I bought an interface and worked hard getting some sounds up. And then we started to build up, a catalogue, if you will. More songs were added all the time. We recorded a couple of cover versions to get the sound of things a bit.
So you've recorded something. So there's some extra
but we'll see it. But I may or may not tell you what those are later.
Well, I think what was interesting for me is that the keyboards were on the album are quite a big part of it.
Yeah.
And I do think, for me, they elevate the whole record. I think that. But that was just Baz and Paul, was it, or did you add some?
No, that was
who was on the record. Who was playing the keyboard?
It's very much.
Were all of you just adding bits and pieces?
Paul and Baz play the keys. I'm not much of a keyboard player. I can sort of hold chords and things. So to give you an example again, Merry Go Round, Paul sent that round as a piano piece, and it was literally like, I came up with this yesterday afternoon. Is it worth pursuing?
Yeah.
And Baz, he just emailed it to all of us. I'm going to listen to it strumming along, and that's quite nice. And Baz replied with, oh yes, I've got something for that, or something, real proper, positive, real, yes, don't throw that one away, I reckon I've got something. I remember Paul sent back something like, okay, well give me a week and a half and I'll play it properly, whatever it was he put, and he sent a version of the piano round, which then Baz put a vocal idea on, sent it around, what do you think of this? Yeah, that sounds great. I've got a guitar riff and that's me doing some of the jangly stuff. Right. And then the last thing that would have gone on would have been the drums.
Right, interesting way of working. So, with that in mind, bearing in mind that was just like a piano piece, let's hear Merry Go Round from Wingmen album. Well, that was Merry Go Round from Wingmen album. And I said that we're talking about the keyboards being such an integral part of the sound. You decided to get Rob Coombes from Supergrass, as we touched on, to tour, and he's now become the official 5th member. Is that correct?
Incredible, isn't it? Yeah, and I mean, what a top man, lovely chap. I'd never met him before. Seen him play in Supergrass, and he's a bit of a wizard. Yes, well, this is back to this, as we were saying, very hastily arranged tour. The idea for live shows came up in kind of last spring, summer. They were spoken about first, but it was very much along the lines of, well, how are we going to do that? Well, it's obviously got to fit in with what we do. We can't start, taking out time and whatever unless we know that time is available. We can't just say to the Stranglers, you can't tour them, or the Ruts, you can't tour them. But we were, again, I remember a very, very enthusiastic message from Paul came round. All of you watch the Supergrass set at Glastonbury. That keyboard player is our man. And it literally just said that in big letters on a WhatsApp or email or whatever it was. So I thought, all right, it's on the iPlayer, and I mean, they were great. They're a great band, aren't they? Yeah. A classic English pop band for me, as good as any. Yeah, great. Yeah. And there he was, the wizard himself at the back, pumping on your stereo, off he went. And did this Zoom thing again. That's our man, said Paul. He fit in perfectly. I love the way he plays, brilliant. How do we get him, At which point Baz went, well, our sound man, Louis, is now out with Supergrass, is their sound man. And Baz had previously bought a guitar off Baz Coombes. Yeah. So there was a bit of a connection. He said, I reckon I can find him, Yeah. So again, in this weird synchronicity that this has come together with, about a week later, the message came through. I found Rob, he's really interested. Yeah. Let's get him on the Zoom, all that kind of thing, And well, so it
is great, because I think it really adds to the album being played live. I think it really works live as well, because having the keyboards, again, is a big I think, a big part of it, you know.
Yeah, I think it would have been hard to do some of the songs without it. I mean, with live versions of songs, you know, in many ways you find yourself working out how you can play it in the format that you've got.
Yeah.
I mean, a case in point is on the last Ruts DC tour, we played Poison Games from Counterculture, which has got, funnily enough, a keyboard part on it,
track,
and it's got quite a lot of guitar ideas from me.
Yeah.
And we, you know, it's back to that thing where you adopt a mentality that says, well, we're going to play a live version of this, how can we do it? And I think we did a good live version of that. It's one of my favourites. It's probably my favourite.
It's one of the best on the album.
I think it's probably my favourite track on the album, so there we go. There would have been a way of working out how to play the songs, because there always is.
Yeah.
But when the chance to work with Rob came up, that was unmissable, wasn't it? You know, someone of that status and that ability. Gosh,
he seems to really embraced it as well, didn't he? And
he was a lovely chap, great character, very almost unaware of his kind of status in the scheme of things. As you say, he's been in Supergrass for 25 years or getting up that way. Played on loads of great records, done gigs, massive gigs. You know, he did the Wembley Taylor Hawkins tribute.
Oh, really?
Well, of course he did. You know, he went, we only did 3 songs. He said, 3 songs more than I will ever play at Wembley Stadium, Rob. Well done.
Well, you never know, you know. And I think one thing that I think has really become apparent is you all seem to get along. There was a great chemistry, and I think at the live shows that really came across well. And I think that, which is why you've got this great rapport with the crowd. And I think on stage you've got a good chemistry, and I think you've got a good chemistry with the audience. And it looks, and I think, like myself, like I mentioned in my review, is that you look like you were having as much fun as we were.
Yeah.
And I love Baz's quote that I saw him reading when he said, "There's usually at least one twat in every band, but with Wingmen there aren't any."
Well, there you go.
For how much longer, you don't know, but I mean, at this sort of lovely innocent time, you're all getting on, and it was so nice to see that, because you know, I think at the gigs, the fact that you weren't playing any songs that many people, or hardly anybody knew, because the album had only been out a couple of weeks, you weren't playing all your old hits. You were relying on the quality of the album and the new songs, and you were relying on the way you did the set list, which I think was planned really well. But there was no sort of dropouts or dull bits or boring bits, and I think the chemistry was so important between all of you.
Oh, well, that's great to hear you say that. I mean, when you're on stage, you don't know. I mean, you've been in bands, and anybody I think who's in bands or actors or whatever, it's very hard to tell when you're on stage. But stage is an odd place. It can be a very insular place, and can be which is weird because you're playing out to people, but that kind of enclave that you're in can be quite hard to judge how things are going. And we've all done gigs where you think, God, it was like playing to a brick wall. And people talk to you afterwards and say, well, we weren't clapping because we were stunned. You know, it was amazing or whatever. You know, it's a fantastic feeling when people say that. But yeah, I mean, you know, you often don't know. You're the last person to know because you're too busy, I suppose. And also, you know, in the eye of the hurricane, it's calm. You know,
well, I think it might be interesting to say that, but I just do think that you did look like you were all enjoying it and having fun, and there was a chemistry, and I think that really did seem to come across.
Yeah, I mean,
really
I had a great time. I mean, I don't mind a bit now. Yeah. And I think none of us came off, saying like, God, what was that all about? You know, it was a really good feeling. You'll always get shows that feel better than others.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
This is inevitable. There'd be something wrong if you didn't, if you know what I mean.
But I think that really was apparent, and the thing was, what made me laugh was that I'd only heard the album a couple of days before I saw you, and yet I was down right at the front, and all around me were like a load of fans wearing Wingmen t-shirts, singing every word to every song of the album, and I just thought, this is amazing, this has really got something here.
It really did take off very quickly, no pun intended.
No, but it yeah.
Thank you.
I know, you know, it's great. There's a real community here. People are really friendly. There's a lot. And then I noticed there's a Wing Nuts, which is a Facebook group and a fans, which is now, I've noticed today, is up to about nearly 1,500 or whatever people.
Wow.
They've even organised a get-together of fans.
I believe so, yes, I believe that's
which I know it's going to be on March the 25th at Triangle Cafe in Greenwich.
Yes, I believe it is.
So
yes.
if you're a Wingmen's fan and you want to go along and meet social, I mean, they might as well set up a dating site or something as well, you know, and be done with it.
There's an almost grim inevitability about that, isn't there? Yes, I believe there is an incident taking place, which I don't think I'm going to be able to attend because I've got something else on. But
which is great, and then someone's going to do a fanzine, an old school fanzine about the band. So suddenly you've got this really great community and fan base,
as you say, which has kind of exploded.
A couple of months, you know.
Yeah, it's been quite a remarkable thing to see. It really has.
Been a really, and I'm glad I was there to witness at least one of the shows. You know, I was tempted to get down to Brighton on the last day, but I couldn't make it.
Well, I'm a bit offended that you didn't.
Yeah, it was a long drive. But no, it's been great to see this sort of evolving, and I'm guessing that from where you were talking, this has got legs. This is going to be something you're going to be dabbling with, obviously in between your busy schedule.
Yes, and I mean this is now where in many ways the other side comes into it. As you say, you have a successful tour, and what you would tend to do then is try to do more. We can't do that. Paul's committed to several months of work with the Damned. Baz obviously with the Stranglers. Ruts DC have just announced last night. We've announced a batch of dates for May, and there's more to come. We're working on a new acoustic album at the moment, which should be out in the summer. There's hopefully an acoustic tour after that. We'll do some more shows later in the year. You know, it's going to be hard to fit any more live work in.
But the intent is there, isn't it?
The intent is definitely there. Well, the intent is there also to do some more recording, in the respect that we have kind of perfected the art of recording without being in the same room together.
Oh yeah, now you've done this.
So there's talk now of other songs starting to appear, and we can all work on them remotely, of course. We can work on them while we're on tour, we can work on them at home in gaps. And again, maybe Martin will then be sent to the ivory tower that is Panther Studios to add the drums. Yeah. And who knows what we can come out with. Certainly the intention is to play some more shows before the end of the year. Where and when those shows are, I don't know yet, and it would be wrong to speculate.
Yeah, I think that's great, but I think most fans will be chuffed to hear that there are. It's not just, you know, there is the intent to do it, and we'll all keep an eye out on the news. And well, that's interesting to know. And one song that I mentioned in my review is "Don't Look Back."
Yeah.
Which for me was the song of the night, and it wasn't even on the album, and I know I hadn't even heard it before.
No.
Is this going to appear? And when I saw there was a new single coming out, I thought, oh great, they're going to release it as a single.
Well, I thought we were going to release it as a single, but I thought it was going to be that Return to Stone.
Are we going to see this appear?
It will appear at some form in the not too distant future. I'm going to be honest and say I'm not sure what form at the moment.
Yeah.
And possibly a single later in the year, possibly in another format. I don't know the full story on that yet. There's ideas, but there's also, but as I say, there's also ideas to record some more. So that may come out, maybe an EP.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Oh,
you know, if we could get a few more songs together, which I think we're perfectly capable of doing.
Yeah.
I mean, I should say that there were songs that we didn't finish for this one. Tend to think that if they won't finish, perhaps they're not finished for a reason.
The unreleased tracks.
Just because the track is unreleased does not make it a classic by any means. Quite often they fall by the wayside for a very good reason.
Well, I'm really pleased that Wingmen is taken off. It's just been great.
You've said taken off now as well.
Sorry. I was God, I didn't mean but as I said, you go into Smith's, it's everywhere. I was coming back from the football the other night, driving back, put the radio on. BBC Radio Berkshire played Oh What a Carry On.
Did it? Brilliant.
This is fantastic.
Wow. You don't think that's going to happen?
Now let's hear it. Let's hear Oh What a Carry On. This is a great song.
This was, now just as a bit of interest, this was the final track recorded for it.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Paul came up with this right near the end of the sessions. So predominantly a Paul song about the evils of Brexit. I remember he sent us the demo, and I phoned him up and said, well, I might get my Telecaster out and do a sort of low-rent Wilco impression. He went, that's exactly what I want from you. Yeah. So he did that. I did that. Baz added a magnificent vocal, very funny, and we all kind of chipped in a few ideas here and there, and that's got horns on it as well, which is kind of cool. So I want to carry on. It's a lot of people's favourite. It was great live. It was great to play live as well. It was a real good track live.
Yeah,
so let's have a listen.
This is Wingmen and Oh What a Carry On.
Was the rhetoric persuasive? Were you blinded by that greasy charm? All that gurning to the cameras surely must have raised some alarm. But he's just one of the lads, got his picture on the front of the rags, down the boozer, smoking fags. Come take a bow, little Britain. Did you ever get the feeling you've been had? Some stupid numbers on a big red bus pulled your trigger, got you mad. But what an own goal. And hey, we took back control, and now we've saved all that dough. Let's crack on with the show. Oh, what a carry on. Where did it all go wrong? Don't blame me, I'm alright, Jack. Just take me back to the days of the British Empire. It doesn't get much better than that. There'll be no more landings on our beaches, coming over here, bleeding us dry like leeches. So up yours get ours, and good riddance to those Brussels spores. A Pyrrhic victory for the Union Jack. But hey, at least we've got our country back. Oh, what a carry on. When did it all go wrong? Don't blame me, I'm alright, Jack. Just take me back to the days of the British Empire.
Great. Well, thanks, Lee. That's great to hear about Wingmen. And so please do check out the Facebook group and the Facebook page. Look out for the new single, which is out for pre-order now. And I know you just quickly mentioned their Ruts DC, but I can't leave without talking about the good news that you've just announced a new tour.
That's right, yes. Counterculture Part 2.
Yeah.
Or Faces in the Sky, I think it was originally called, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, that's going to take place. We've got 10 shows in May, I think, and we're off the beaten track. We have There's no London show. We basically tried to do the shows that we didn't do last time. So we couldn't get a Manchester show before Christmas. Couldn't get a Brighton show, etc., etc. So and we've gone off piste with the likes of the Georgian Theatre in Stockton, which is a lovely venue.
Oh yeah.
We're going to Dunfermline, which I'm really looking forward to. That's going to be great.
Skids country.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, I think the first Ruts show in Scotland ever was in Dunfermline. It's gone into kind of I think it was it the Kinema or Kinema, whatever they call it, and that's got into folklore up there from what I can gather. Approximately 4.5 million people were there from what I can gather, talking to people up there.
But it's funny because when I saw the tour dates announced, there was no London show and there was nowhere near me, and I said to you, and I said jokingly, I said, what, no London, no Slough? And then he said, oh, sorry. And then suddenly, lo and behold, you're playing in Reading.
In Reading, yes. Well, that was the poster I saw the day before said Dover, so that came in very late.
Well, that's
yes,
great.
There was a Reading show. Say Brighton, Portsmouth. We're going to get out and about again. It's always great to play.
Yeah.
So we're going to, as I say, a little bit off the beaten track, but Counterculture Part 2. And we've just started ElectAcoustic Volume 2, so we're looking to finish that by the end of March. We're recording that at the moment. We recorded 10 new backing tracks at Pat Collier's studio in South London, Pat from the Vibrators, of course. And that should be out hopefully for Rebellion in the summer, at least on CD. And we might do an acoustic tour after that.
Oh, great. Yeah, it's all going, isn't it?
And then hopefully some more dates towards the end of the year, hopefully going to Europe. Well, now's the time.
And ElectAcoustic was, of course, a great record you released, which is just like reworked versions of the old classics, and also all throughout the Ruts and Ruts DC career, wasn't it? It wasn't just like the old songs.
We came right up to date.
Did Psychic Attack and
Kill the Pain was on it, I think, wasn't it? Must Destroy.
Yeah, and I think it worked really, really well, isn't it? So you're doing the set for Volume 2, is it the same theory that you're
similar type of things? Yeah, there's a couple of old Ruts numbers on it. We've recorded a few songs. We've started recording a few reworked versions of a few of the Counterculture songs. They won't necessarily all go on it because they're quite recent.
Oh, okay, that's good.
But there's some interesting goes at those. There's a couple of other less obvious ones from the past. I won't give too much away. Mostly because I'm not sure what will get through the slalom ride that is the recording sessions, or are the recording sessions. But we've got about 14 or 15 songs to choose from. As I say, a couple of obscurities, a couple of obvious ones, but I won't say what they are. You can probably work it out from what wasn't on there.
What wasn't on there. Well, I was just looking, because on Volume 1 you had Music Must Destroy, Kill the Pain, In a Rut, West One, Something That I Said, H.I.'s, Babylon's Burning, Psychic Attack.
Sounds like we've used all the killers up, doesn't it? But there'll be a few other ones in the way. There's an obvious omission there, but I'll leave you to work out what that is.
So on the first album, on the first volume, which one did you like playing acoustic? Which one did you think was? I thought it came over really, really well. Sometimes you think when it's like an acoustic version of the songs, it doesn't work. But I think it was a great record.
Yeah, we were really pleased with that. I mean, we really rethought those songs well, I thought. Well, again, the last one that I remember we recorded for that was Music Must Destroy, and we'd struggled to get an acoustic version of that to work. And right on the last bit of the last day, Dave said, right, I've got this idea. Imagine it played like Give Peace a Chance, which the original Ruts DC recording is nothing like, is it?
Yeah.
And he did this he said it's Give Peace a Chance with a hip-hop drum beat. I said, yeah, of course it is. And he did a great ruffy beat, as he always does. And I went, June, and we were away. And we that's like the last one we did for that album. And funnily enough, we managed almost the same with an old Ruts classic this time, but I won't tell you what that is.
Teasing us. Well, something there's lots to look forward to then, isn't there, for Wingmen and Ruts?
Hopefully, yes.
DC fans. So, well, let's play out on Music Must Destroy, the ElectAcoustic version.
Oh yeah, that's a big favourite. Yeah, we like that. Great.
I'd just like to say thanks very much, Leigh. Great to see you again, as always. And I'm glad it's all going very swimmingly for you.
Well, thanks for all the work you do. It's fantastic, mate.
Yeah, great, appreciate it. Take care. Cheers.
Cheers, mate.